Melanie and Bruce.
Welcome to Tabernacle Live Stream. Please forgive our delay. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we are here. We thank you for your patience, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into our COVID-19 update. Myra?
Yes, so we have two special guests with us today, two guests that we've had separately. We have the treat of having them together for a collective conversation today. Both Bruce and Melanie, the doctors Wilson, will be rejoining us today for this conversation, for this update on COVID. And so we want to just jump right into what is going on with COVID. Where are we? Are the numbers truly increasing like we're hearing? Should we be alarmed? Can we just get an update from your perspectives on where we are?
You know, that's a lot of questions that you asked, so we'll get to all of them. But to start and be very honest and clear, COVID is not over. We are still seeing the cases rise in over 25 states in the country, so this is very much on the rise. And we all still need to be concerned because it's just as deadly as it was when it started.
Yeah.
Bruce, care to add?
No, well, I just want to let people know, because they ask me a lot since I'm in the hospital, seeing patients on the floors, that I am seeing an uptick in the patients that are coming in. We had gotten to a point where we had pretty much discharged everyone from the hospital that had COVID. Went a few days without, but now we're definitely having an upswing in the number of patients that we're admitting. And this is exactly how it began before. So even if this isn't a resurgence, I feel like this may just be the initial portion of the pandemic. We just haven't finished yet.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thought that the virus was going anywhere anytime soon. Why don't you guys comment on how politics is playing a role in this from your perspective?
So politics has played a huge role. In conversations that I've had with people, they really don't know what to do because they feel like there is no clear direction from our leaders in this country, from our president, who basically was slow to respond, who made it seem like it was a hoax, refuses to wear masks in public events, host events indoors without masks, and even as in Arizona, as we speak, in an indoor rally. And as we know, Arizona's cases are everly rising. As a matter of fact, they had over 3,600 cases in one day, which was yesterday.
Wow.
So it is hard for the American public to understand when there is not clear leadership and direction, and they don't feel like they can trust their leaders to lead them in the right direction. The information has been contradictory since the beginning, and that's partially because of leadership and partially because we didn't know what we were dealing with. But the fact of the matter remains that people don't know what to do and they feel like they're being left by their leadership alone. So it's hard to know what to do. So I believe that politics does play a big role in this. You hear people saying that, you know, this wearing a mask are the liberals being scared and the left wing, and you know, you have the right wing that some of them will say that they don't even believe that coronavirus is a thing. So it is very political and it's dangerous to kind of toe those party lines.
Furthermore, people to understand that right now this is an election year.
Yep.
So there's a conflict between the economy and it taking an impact since so many people have lost their jobs versus people's health. And if you can imagine, money runs the United States of America. So we're opening up these states in these different phases. For instance, Illinois is going to phase 4 soon, and they're still seeing an increase in a rise in their cases. Louisiana, thankfully, has halted their phase system at phase 2 to take in more data, which I think is a great idea, because we really need to get a stronger hold on what's happening. So you have to understand that there are other reasons for opening things up, more so than just health precaution.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue. want to share a video clip that actually talks a lot about what you're talking about, how we live in a capitalistic society, and money and capitalism really, really lead and drive that. Um, it's really money. It's all of those things. We want to show a video that actually it's going to be the first video, the number one video that's going to really talk and show a conversation between a doctor and Bill Meyer around how money drives our society. Are we ready for that clip?
And I'm surprised to find that an alarming number of Americans I talk to still are not aware of the connection between having a bad result with coronavirus, if you get it,
while we were working through that,
and obesity.
One of the
but
tenets
that
of
is
that
outside of
first
being
particular clip, if I could piggyback off of Myra, is how, Bruce, I know you're going to find this very interesting, how health, America being a more healthy society, could really allow us to live with coronavirus as opposed to, taking major risk, trying to survive, to get money by going to work and still having to live with COVID. And if we were a more healthy society, we wouldn't have as many issues with COVID. Yeah. As a matter of fact, hopefully we'll get the video going here, but the doctor, he's a independent nutrition doctor, and here I think we're going to try it again. Let's take a look at this really quickly.
Old, that is the main factor, is it not?
Well, what we're seeing with COVID-19, with coronavirus,
well, I'm understanding
is really
that there's
a fast pandemic on top of
in any event, Bruce. What do you say about health and how that could, how we're, I just want to draw this one comparison. The obesity, diabetes, heart disease, all of these diseases as a result of diseases that we get, in particular the African American community, that we get as a result of our nutrition and our diet. How does that play a role in how we are adversely affected by COVID-19? Really, there's been a slow pandemic over the last 25, 30 years of obesity, as 30 years ago, this wasn't really America's problem. But today, you see a lot more Americans dying of heart disease, diabetes, heart attacks, and those kinds of complications. So how does our unhealthiness play a role in what we're dealing with COVID and why we can't, really reopen safely?
So I've been saying that for quite some time now. I'm all about the healthy diet, the healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
When you're faced with diabetes and obesity, you really are suppressing the immune system, right? Because the body's constantly under stress. And when you have all of these stress hormones in production, it increases it increases inflammation first and foremost. So you break down the mucous membranes within the gut, which is the first line of defense against any attack. You decrease the ability for the body to heal itself, to repair damaged DNA. You refuse the body's ability to be able to fight disease as it attacks. So those who are obese and who have diabetes as well, thus they can't fight the disease. Yeah. And so we're seeing those die at a much higher rate than those that are added with that chronic stress, right? So we talk a lot about mindfulness too. Well, if you go down that route, you learn that the chronic stress is also maladaptive when it comes to fighting infection and preventing disease. And so we have this stressor on our body, COVID, that's causing a decrease in your immune system, compounded by the chronic stress that we're seeing every day, added to those that already have comorbid diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. That's a lot to defend against. That's a lot to fight against when you're under such attack. By living a healthier lifestyle, eating a proper diet, you're giving your body the ability to then combat these stressors, right? And if you if you could understand a bit more of how the mind heals the body, when you decrease the stress, then you can send your attention in a healing way to then combat the COVID virus as well, and honestly prevent even getting it in the first place. Those that are healthier have a better immune system, so they can, even if they do get sick, they might not be asymptomatic. That's why those that are younger, who have stronger immune systems, aren't having as many symptoms. But be mindful that just because you're asymptomatic does not mean that you cannot spread the disease. So we still should be taking precautions, because we don't know everyone who's been affected by COVID. Testing, although it's increasing, is nowhere near where it could or it should be. So just really eat a healthy diet, just because, just for your own sake. Exercise when you can, boost your immune system in that way, and keep stress low. Meditation, going for walks, exercise, anything that you can do for yourself, your me time, also helps in this manner. So it's absolutely true that the sicker you are, the sicker you can get,
Wow. And you brought up a good point that you've been saying this for a while. And I remember even when we had a conversation before, you were talking about that and just your own personal journey and getting there. But it sounded like a lot of you getting to that point of understanding how important your health is was a personal journey that you had to be intentional about and self-aware about. The question I'm wondering is, because our government, our leaders in this country aren't spreading that message, like if you turn on the news, no one is talking about you need to get healthy to fight this off. If people aren't intentional about getting this information themselves, how are they getting it? Because our TV isn't, our government and leaders aren't speaking the same language you're speaking. So how would people even, what are some ways people would even know? Are they hearing this somewhere else?
It's divine intervention. And that's why it lays upon us to make sure that we're spreading that information. We cannot rely on the government to take care of us. To rely on ourselves to build and repair and renew our communities. So it goes from me telling my family and my friends, my family and my friends, and us spreading the information this way, whether it's social media or it's word of mouth. And the best way to do that is to be an example of it yourself. When people see how you're feeling, how you're doing, your energy level, and the fact that you're not succumbing to the chronic stresses of life, they too will choose based upon what they see. So it's not like we have to forcefully shake people and say, do this, do this, do this. Do it for yourselves. For yourselves, those around you will be affected without you having to lift a finger.
Yeah.
Well, we just got word that we've worked out this thing with the video, so we're just going to let this play. And Melanie and Bruce, I want you to take a good look at it so that you can further comment, because one of the things that Myra and I are really concerned about that we understand that people can do is take care of themselves. And in taking care of themselves health-wise, it reduces their risk of contracting COVID, also helps them be able to fight COVID. Obviously, there's a line to be walked there, but we'll get into those details. David, why don't you take it away for us?
Coronavirus has hit the world in a matter of months. It's been devastating. And yet, at the same time, obesity and diabetes have hit the world over just 30 to 40 years. 30 to 40 years ago, the world did not look like this. And we have had skyrocketing rates of obesity and diabetes, never before seen in human history. And that slow pandemic has been at least as equally devastating and really in almost every other way much more devastating than coronavirus. And yet, because it's happened over 30 or 40 years, the world has been really collectively shrugging and not really doing what it takes or taking it seriously. And what's really striking now, Bill, is that there's a clear link between those two things. If people don't have high blood pressure, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, a couple of other risk factors, many of which are diet-related, they don't get that sick from coronavirus. And so it's very possible, if we had a metabolically healthy population, if our country looked like what it looked like 40 or 50 years ago, coronavirus would have been deadly, but it would have been far, far less problematic. We wouldn't have had to shut down our economies, spend trillions of dollars in bailout dollars. And so this fast pandemic of coronavirus has hit on top of this slow pandemic, and we have to address obesity, diabetes, and other diet-related illnesses because first, just to deal with coronavirus right now, but this is not going to be the last pandemic. This is not going to be the last one, and we really need a resilient population. So this has to be a national priority.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that clip. Melanie, why don't you tell us what you thought about that and give us some directives and whatnot?
You know, I thought what he said actually was very insightful. Again, to reiterate what you said and echo his sentiments that there has been a slow pandemic that we've had on top of this larger pandemic. And why aren't we hearing people talk about this in terms of our government leaders? And I agree. We're not where we need to be in terms of dissemination of information regarding your chronic ongoing health. We're a society where we are constantly treating problems, but we're not in the business of preventing them. And that is an issue because now you have something like this come along and here we are, we're not prepared. And I agree again, you know, with what Omar said too, during this situation where we were on lockdown for, 2 to 3 months or 6 to 8 weeks, that was a time for all of us to, again, do our part. Let's focus on how I can get healthy. Let me get outside. I know that's harder for some of the people in the northern states because it was winter, but how can I focus on my diet and my health and my mental health so that I can help and do my part so that if I do get the disease, I don't get as sick. So I agree. It is important for us to take the onus, and I agree with what Bruce said, to piggyback. It's not up to us to depend on the government to give us this type of information. Wow. If you look at it, healthcare is 5% of the gross domestic product. We spend over $3 trillion in healthcare. The majority of it, 38% of that, is in hospital stays. Another 21% of that is in doctor's fees. But then right after that is what we're paying for our insurance. So looking at it from a monetary and capitalistic standpoint, it doesn't make financial sense to cure disease if you are the economist for this country. It doesn't make sense. They've looked at it. I think Obamacare thought that the premise behind that was that prevention of disease would help close the gap in terms of healthcare dollars that we're spending for our debt. That did not happen. You have cancer treatments that are $300,000 a pop. It does not do well to have a disease-free society. It doesn't do well for the economy.
But it does well for you.
Exactly.
So listen to yourself. You hear this voice and it tells you don't do this or to do this. Mm-hmm. And it is the wise person that listens to that voice, right? That is your higher consciousness telling you that changes need to be made. And when you make those changes, only great things happen. Yeah. So if you're telling yourself at any point in time that you need to exercise more, no matter what it is. If you're telling yourself, don't eat this thing, don't eat that thing. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you, I just read a study just yesterday that proves with over 61,000 patients that those that are on a vegan diet, even a high-carb vegan diet, decrease their rate of diabetes by over 5%, from 2.5 on the vegan diet to greater than 7.5% chance of getting diabetes for those that are eating meat. Mm-hmm. When it comes to taking care of yourself, you already know what to do. Yeah. You've heard it time and time again. Now it's just time to take action, and whatever step you can take toward being healthier, that prevents you getting caught up in the system that she just mentioned.
Wow.
Making money off of us.
Yeah, and it is a system. So to our audience, what we're really trying to drive home to you is that the medical industry, regardless of our leadership in office, is not interested in healing you. They're interested in helping you cope with or manage whatever disease or issue that you have, or letting you die. So you really have to take your health and your care into your own hands so that you could live a healthy life. And Bruce, why don't we go back to you really quickly? What are some quick things? I don't know if you heard the video, but
I'll make it real simple. I'll tell you guys like I tell all my patients. If you eat plants, and you drink water,
Yeah.
the body's natural inclination is health.
Wow.
Wow. Simple.
Why don't you add to that, Melanie?
It's so simple.
I mean, I actually do agree. We talk about a healthy diet, and people can go into the wherefores and whys about what a healthy diet is. I think, first of all, we know what not a healthy diet is. I think we can all pinpoint that those fried, greasy foods, overabundance of processed foods, sugars, not natural, produce, getting out there, getting your produce, cooking, healthy things, cooking from scratch, adding your own natural fats to your diet. That's what's going to get you healthy. That's what your body is asking you for. That's going to make it take on its natural form. That's going to make it take on its natural disease fighting state, everything. So you've heard about the people that when they get on this weight loss diet and they're actually do it the correct way through keeping a balanced, healthy diet, drinking water, not only do they slim down, their skin looks clearer, their mood elevates,
more
their energy increases.
Yes.
And that is a cycle because that gets you out, that gets you more active, that increases your mental health. So you don't need to have all these medications that you need for your depression, for your anxiety, for your diabetes, for your hypertension. So you don't need all of those things anymore.
That's so real.
That was brilliant.
So I got excited when you said it's as simple as plants and water, but I also know that is very hard if you're transitioning from a diet of overly processed foods, high sugar intake, all of these things. It's simple and we know what to do oftentimes, and like you said, you can listen to your body, but why don't we do it? Like, is there something that is, innate that just makes it hard, and is there maybe some way that we can think about it as we fight these urges, because we're going to have urges, and I don't want the audience to think it's just that simple, and if you can't do it, that something's wrong with you. It's hard to make changes. So what are some things that we can maybe do to help us kind of get to a place where we can get into a better routine when we have urges?
I think Myra's saying she doesn't want to give up her pancakes. No, I'm just kidding. Or me with my fried chicken. No, but go ahead. That's a very valid question. That was awesome.
So, first and foremost, you have to make up your mind. Second, you have to understand and be aware of your surroundings. We are programmed, and we're constantly programmed. Ads on television, ads on the radio. It's all about eat, and more eating, right? Things that are delicious. So you have to change your space. First, change your mind space. My mindset is that of being healthy. Make that commitment. If you say you can or you say you can't, either way, you're correct.
Yes.
Right? So you first have to decide. Once you decide, start noticing bit by bit those things that you're putting in your mouth, and ask yourself, is this in line with the decision that I have made? If you say no, then you have the impetus right there to make the right decision. Understand that there are going to be those that say, why are you doing that? You have to be strong in yourself because you know what you are doing for you, right? So, and if you're with those naysayers, change your community, right? Change those people that are around you because you are who you keep around you. So if friends are not talking about this stuff, it's time to find some friends that are, or either get your friends to start. That way you have support, because you need support through something like this. You're going against the grain. The mainstream is not health right now. That's because we've been taught wrong, our parents have been taught wrong, and their parents have been taught wrong. So that's 3 generations or more of misinformation, of disinformation. Corporations plotting and planning and strategically doing this, and they do plenty of studies to understand the psyche and what's going to motivate you to make the improper decision. So you have to be well aware of what the right decision for yourself is. So first, change your headspace. Second, change your communal space. And then finally, change your living space. So if it is in your home, you are going to eat it. So if you buy it, you will eat it. So first, don't buy it and bring it into the house. If it's in the house, get it out of the house. That way it takes much more energy and much more effort for you to make the wrong decision. Now you've set yourself up for success because you've already made a decision. You have people around you that support you. and your environment supports the choice that you've made.
If I can jump in for a second.
Yes, go right ahead.
Come on, Melanie.
And that's great. And that's actually, I agree with everything that Bruce has said here. If you want to talk about how can I practically get started, okay, I eat chips, fried chicken, fries every day. I go out to a steak dinner at night with my family. This is what we do. How can I match to what we're talking about? Exactly. Change your habits. One of the things that we're talking about is reliance on other people to give you information. Sometimes helping when you get on the internet, and that's what I did when I started to change my diet over. Getting on the internet and reading, there are resources out there about plant-based dieting and things like that that will get you excited when you see the health benefits, and read it for yourself and actually study it. That's one way that you can start to get the commitment. Nobody's saying go from fried chicken and all this to I only eat plants tomorrow. Now, if you do that, that's great. But if you're feeling like, what is a more practical plan? Let's start replacing one of your meat meals a day with a non-meat based meal every day. Try that.
So that's exactly how
I like that.
So I wasn't as slim and trim as I am now at one point in time.
Come on, Wilson.
I kept finding that I was tired. My energy was low. And I read about a plant-based diet. So first I was like, okay, let me try this. I got rid of steak. Then after 3 weeks of that, I was like, let me get rid of all beef. So I did that. 2 to 3 weeks later, I got rid of chicken, and on and on. Then I got rid of pork, then I got rid of, and eventually I was pescatarian for about a year. And I decided at that time, why am I eating this if there's all the microplastics in it, there's the fish farming and the negative effects of that. So at that point, I decided again to get rid of the fish and try to become vegan. And there are backslides. So when you're doing this, you must first love yourself.
Yes.
And be able to forgive yourself for any indiscretion, right? Because if you constantly harp on yourself, that makes you kind of not want to do it on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
So the ability to forgive yourself and to take that information and move forward step by step. As long as you're making inroads towards your goal, that gives you a positive reinforcement. And you'll see it come through. And when you realize the energy and how much more energy and mobility you have, you'll realize that when you eat that meat and it sets you back, you don't like the way that feels. And that's going to propel you further in your diet and healthy lifestyle changes.
So we had a question from the audience.
Yes.
2 questions. So I'll let you do the first question first.
Yes, I'm actually going to do it in the order since we're talking about diet right now. There's a question from the audience around, are there any health benefits to taking sea moss?
I'm sorry?
Sea moss?
Sea
Are
moss.
you all familiar with sea moss? Either of you able to answer that question? Health benefits?
So sea moss has highly anti-inflammatory effects. It's great for bone building, and it's great for increasing your energy and your mood. I use sea moss in my smoothies, and you can buy it raw, rinse it, and just juice it in the smoothies that you make, or you could buy it already in a gel and add it to things that you eat. It's a great additive. However, I will say turmeric, if you're really going for anti-inflammatory effect, is a really great supplement to add into your diet. And it only takes 1/4 of a teaspoon, that's half of your pinky, and once a day, and you can put that in anything.
Yeah, I started going to this place called Wadada, and they put sea moss in all of their smoothies, and that's like my first meal every day is just I drink a smoothie, and it has changed my mornings and my days considerably, in my opinion, just doing that every day.
Yeah, and I do both sea moss and turmeric, so I can attest to both of those.
Totally
Since
agree.
we're still talking about diet real quick, I'd like to interject that we talk a lot about what to eat. Sometimes we should also talk about not eating, right? So we eat way more than we need to. And when the body's digesting food, it's not fighting off disease. It's not building and repairing. It is digesting the food. The blood are taken from the extremities and all those other vital functions to digest that food. So also think about intermittent fasting, or regular fasting for 24, 48 hours. In church, you might go on the Daniel's fast and you might see your energy start to go up, right? So consider that as well.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I love intermittent fasting. It really works for me.
Do we want to go to the next
Yeah,
question?
go ahead to the
So
next
the audience is, we're shifting a bit and talking about COVID, and specifically, how should we still be taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're cautious about COVID, from washing our hands to washing our groceries to sanitizing, wearing masks. You know, we've been in this for 11 days. I don't even know where we are in this, but I know people have gotten a little casual, and myself included. I'm guilty every now and then of being a little too casual, probably. So what things should we still be doing as COVID is real?
I agree. So everything that you mentioned before, so all the things that there's different mechanisms of helping to control this disease. And what they're asking us from this general public to do is what we call low-level measures. It doesn't mean that they're not important. In many ways, they're the most important thing that you can be doing. Mm-hmm. But they're low level, meaning it doesn't really cost you anything to do. Yeah. And it's relatively easy, but it makes a great deal. So those things such as social distancing, I know we talked last time that I was on, that just because things are open does not mean that you have to be there. Yeah. So really, honestly, still restricting your things that you need to do to a must-needed situation. Mm-hmm. And then when you do go out, do wear a mask or a face covering, both when you're social distancing, but particularly when you're not able to do so for whatever reason, if that's what your job entails or it's a needed situation. Washing your hands. After every time you come in contact with a surface, wash your hands. Before you eat, wash your hands. After you eat, wash your hands. Mm-hmm. At the grocery store, you know, sometimes those grocery stores aren't great with maintaining social distancing, but try to do it if you can. Yes, washing your produce and groceries when you get home before you eat them. That's absolutely everything that we should be doing. But again, the best thing that I can say is stay out of large crowds, stay home, restrict what you need to do to must-needed things, because you really just have to think this is a risk-benefit scenario. Is what you want to do worth the risk of infecting yourself or your loved ones with this virus?
It's a great
Bruce, you wanted to say something?
Be just as diligent now as we were months ago.
Yeah.
Like it. I really like it. Why don't we take a look at the next segment we have and bring that into the discussion as we move back into COVID-19.
Hunker your big nemesis, anxiety, and show the world you're not scaredy cats. And you shouldn't be. You know how many people in Japan under 30 have died of COVID? 1. And he was a sumo wrestler. You know how many people of any age have died in all of Taiwan? 7. In super dense Hong Kong? 4. And that is in large part because they are simply healthier to begin with, as young people are in general. Think about the places millennials and Gen Z would normally go, like clubs. People who are in clubs have incredibly strong immune systems. Ever go to one of those daytime pool parties in Las Vegas? It's a pool full of people at noon who haven't slept from the night before, a bunch of rolling, roided up dudes getting way too much sun after unprotected sex, snorting coke through a $20 bill that has germs on it, the coronavirus.
Is one of my favorites. He is very hard on our leadership because our leadership should be more socially responsible, and they're not. Country's really affected by lobbyists in office and economics. We're going to ask Bruce and Melanie to comment on that second video clip, as Bill was suggesting that the younger folks take a hit for the older folks because it's really their time now. We've got to forge a new world for ourselves that we want to live in, not the old folks that allowed, you know, all the awfulness that has been that we're fighting now.
And he also excludes the sick too.
Yes,
so
he definitely
elders and our elderly and the sick, whether you're young or old.
Exactly,
you know,
Myra.
Yeah. So.
Well, go ahead. So what's the question?
Say that again, Bruce.
I couldn't hear the video so well.
So Bill was actually explaining that youth are really, they probably can fight it off or are less susceptible to, getting the disease or dying from the disease, I think rather is what he was saying. Is there more to?
Yes, Bill was definitely saying that the youth should take a hit for the sick, the sickly, young or old, and or the elderly, because as you are a youth, usually that means you're more healthy, excluding the sick people, because your immune system is healthy. And in the video, he was basically talking about how our millennials can really forge their own mark on the world as a generation by fighting disease, by getting out into the world and helping our economies. So we just wanted to get either Melanie's or your comment on that.
He's saying that they should take the risk and get out and keep the economy going by spending money out there, while the elderly and those that are debilitated stay indoors, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
Great summary.
Great summary.
I am saying, personally, no one needs to be taking the risk. Because even one person dying unnecessarily is tragic.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand that there is an economic situation that must be had, but necessity is the mother of invention. So when one way of life changes, another way of life then ensues.
Yeah.
And I think the young and those that are free thinkers can come up with better ways and more ways to help propel the society. Now, those are the ones that are already out and about anyway. So it's not like there's a huge, like we need a huge influx or an increase in those going out. Because those people who are asymptomatic and asymptomatically shedding the virus can then silently transmit the disease to those that are inside anyway. So I can't say I agree with what he's saying. I would say that everyone should be taking precaution. The economy will recover, right?
Yeah.
There's always fluctuations. We've been in the Great Depression multiple times. Things happen. But what we don't want to have is even further. We've already, over 120,000 people have already died, right? So why risk more lives than necessary?
I want to direct this with a little bit of hard data here, okay? So each person is at risk, statistically of infecting 2.5 other people when they're asymptomatic. But there are what we call people that are called super spreaders, which can spread it to 10 or more people or so. Most of those super spreaders are our youth, because they are more likely when they get the disease to be asymptomatic, which means they're going to transmit it. They still go to work. Yeah. They're still riding in that Uber that you get in right after they did. Yeah. And you can't tell who's going to get sick. Case in point. I don't know if you guys heard about, there was a 23-year-old who was the first recipient of a double lung transplant at Northwestern a few weeks ago. She didn't have any underlying diseases before she got COVID. She got very sick, and she got so sick that she needed a double lung transplant. 23. So exposing people unnecessarily to disease by saying, here, you get out there and take one for the team, I think where I can maybe understand where that might have come from, it doesn't make sense, because again, the concept of herd immunity, which you've heard me say, is actually shifting. Yeah. The point of the matter is we don't even know if we can get herd immunity. Yeah. Our testing is imperfect, but at this point in time, 6% of the population has tested positive for antibodies, with 120,000 deaths. If you're saying that you need to get to 70% herd immunity, which they're saying for this virus, in order for us to go back to our old way of life, how many deaths do you need to have to get to 70%? And these people need to get it at the same time. In addition, we haven't seen how this virus is going to mutate. So that, honestly, while it sounds good, is not really rooted in scientific data.
Yeah. Furthermore, those that are getting infected and transmitting it to others, it's just, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't think.
Well, I, as we were talking about how we have been relaxed, I was, for Father's Day, I met a friend of mine at a cigar bar for a very brief period. Obviously, we were social distancing at the place and whatnot. But when I left the place, and I was on my way home, the young people were out. The millennials were out Juneteenth weekend by the droves. There was a concert with over 10,000 people.
Outdoors?
Outdoors. I saw people, there's a nightclub here, 595 North. The line was wrapped around the building. I saw that on my way home. And then the whole, you ride down Peter Street, you ride down Northside Drive, you eventually get to the Peter Street district, an millennial, hangout area. And there was tons of millennials and youth out there standing in line to go into clubs. So what messaging, would you give to the audience? Because we have people here, that know millennials and whatnot. We should definitely say to them, what do we say to them? Why don't you tell us what to say to them? Because they're out here. The young people are definitely out here. They're moving.
All you can tell them is to be safe. That's really all there is. They understand what that means. We can't control everybody. Right. All we can control is ourselves.
Yeah.
So do it for you, right? And then have others follow your example. Because you can't control everyone.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, I think, again, continuing to have the conversation, again, it's what we see in everything that becomes, that runs rampant in our society. People get tired of fighting and then they just be quiet. And then when you're quiet is when things get out of control. And then you find yourself, years later and you just wish you would have said something. Mm-hmm. So again, that's true. We all have free will. We can do whatever we want to do. And you have some people that are not going to listen no matter how many times you tell them. But I still feel that continuing to spread the message and say, that doesn't mean that people need to put themselves in danger, go out and be the Rights Chancellor out in a crowd of people and tell people to go home. But we all know millennials. If somebody's like, oh, I'm about to go to such and such, just saying, well, hey, think about, so-and-so that you're going to come in contact with. To think about so-and-so, not allowing these people that are engaging in this risky behavior to come to your home. That's another way, you separate yourself from these people. And, eventually, hopefully, that some of them will get the message, like Bruce said, to continue to lead by example. If you're going to engage in this behavior and you're going to be out with thousands of people, you cannot come to my home with me and my family.
Well said.
Very well said.
We have a couple of audience questions. The first one is back around health and COVID. This person is asking what correlation, if any, is there between having diabetes and COVID or being able to fight COVID, and if there's any health things that like smoothies, or what type of smoothie can they make to be more healthy and potentially fight COVID?
I'll let you start with the diabetes.
I guess that's a
good doctor.
Bruce, if you have any input on that.
So I'm seeing a high correlation between those with diabetes and those that do poorly once they contract COVID-19. So you have to be extra diligent when it comes to your health care, wearing your mask, keeping your hands washed, keeping your home clean, keeping those foreign invaders from invading your home that might be infected. And get on this health kick now. Yeah. I said before, who are you going to be after quarantine, right? This is a time now where you're in your home. You don't need a gym to do some push-ups, to do some sit-ups, to do some body weight squats, to do whatever it is you can to get your heart rate up and get your energy moving 45 minutes a day, 5 out of 7 days a week. But more important than exercise is your diet. And I'll say it one more time. And I'll say it, if you eat plants and you drink water, the body's natural inclination is health. Everybody, if you eat what? Plants.
And
you drink what?
Water.
The body's natural inclination is health. So start looking at things like Forks Over Knives that has a huge vegan menu that's attractive, right, with delicious options. Start rethinking your meals. If you're in New Orleans and you're eating red beans and rice on a Monday, don't eat your sausage with your red beans and rice. That's still a vegan meal, right? If you're eating spaghetti with meat, take the meat out, add roasted cauliflower, do things like that. And if you're trying to go, and if you're thinking about smoothies, that is an excellent idea as a meal replacement because it gives you tons of greens, tons of fruit, increased antioxidants that help you fight off infection. And to those smoothies, you can add superfoods such as turmeric, such as sea moss, aloe vera juice, things like that that are highly anti-inflammatory. Just Google anti-inflammatory diet and start adding those things in slowly but surely, figuring out recipes to change what you typically do into who you are now, right? Because if you're in health, you're at the moment that you say you are until you do something